A dream job turns into a nightmare. The autumn morning air felt crisp against Jessica Thompson's face as she stood outside the glass tower on Fifth Avenue. The building stretched toward the sky like a monument to success. And today, she would finally walk through those doors as an employee. After 3 years of grinding through night classes while working 2 jobs, her computer science degree from NYU had opened this door. Quantum Solutions wasn't just any tech company. It was the fastest-growing artificial intelligence firm in New York, and she had beaten out 200 other candidates for this position. Jessica adjusted the strap of her department store handbag and took a deep breath. She had spent her last paycheck from the coffee shop on this outfit. A modest navy blazer, a white blouse from Target, black slacks from an outlet mall, and sensible flats that wouldn't hurt during a long day. Her mother had pressed the outfit twice last night, tears of pride in her eyes. Jessica was the first person in her family to work in an office building instead of a factory or restaurant. The lobby of intimidation, the lobby made Jessica feel like she had stepped onto a movie set. Marble floors reflected the morning light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. A sculptural metal installation hung from the ceiling. It's probably costing more than her yearly rent in the small Brooklyn apartment she shared with her younger sister. Men and women in designer clothes glided past, speaking into wireless earbuds about stocks and mergers and 6-figure deals at the reception desk. A perfectly polished woman with salon-perfect hair smiled professionally. Her name tag read Amber. Everything about her screamed expensive, from her silk blouse to her manicured nails. Jessica Thompson. Here for my first day in the AI development department, Jessica said. Trying to sound confident, Amber's smile didn't waver. But Jessica caught the quick glance that took in her discount store outfit. Welcome to Quantum Solutions. Mr. Hayes asked me to send you straight up to the executive floor when you arrived. Take the elevator to the 25th floor. Meeting the CEO, the elevator ride felt endless. Jessica watched her reflection in the mirrored walls, suddenly second-guessing every choice. Was her blazer too boxy? Were her shoes too plain? She had researched business casual dress codes online for hours, but now she wondered if she had missed something crucial. The elevator doors opened to reveal an open office space that looked like it belonged in an architecture magazine. Exposed brick walls, sleek metal desks, indoor trees, and the kind of ergonomic chairs that cost thousands of dollars each. Young professionals clustered around standing desks, their designer sneakers and expensive watches catching the light. You must be the new hire. The voice came from behind her, smooth and confident. Jessica turned to face Brandon Hayes. She recognized him from the company website and tech magazine covers. At 34, he had already made the Forbes 30 Under 30 list twice. Tall with perfectly styled dark hair, sharp jawline, and wearing a suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent, he looked like he had been born for success. His family owned half the real estate in Manhattan, and he had attended Harvard before starting Quantum Solutions with family money. Yes, Mr. Hayes, I'm Jessica Thompson. It's an honor to work here. She extended her hand. His handshake was brief and firm. His blue eyes swept over her appearance, and Jessica saw something flicker in them. Disappointment? Judgment? Whatever it was, made her stomach clench. The devastating words before we get started. Brandon said, his voice low enough that only she could hear. I need to address something. Quantum Solutions maintains certain standards. Our clients are Fortune 500 executives, venture capitalists, and international investors. First impressions matter significantly in this industry. Jessica felt her face grow warm. I understand, sir. I'm not sure you do. Brandon's tone remained professional, but his words cut deep. You need to dress properly for this environment. What you're wearing is fine for a retail job, but here you represent our brand. There are excellent stores in Soho and the Upper East Side. I suggest you invest in a more appropriate wardrobe. Looking the part is just as important as doing the job. Don't embarrass me in client meetings. The words hit Jessica like a physical blow. She had spent everything she had on these clothes. She had researched what to wear. And now, before she had even started working, she was being told she wasn't good enough. I understand, Mr. Hayes, she managed to say, swallowing the humiliation that burned in her throat. The team introduction. Brandon led her through the office, pointing out various departments. Jessica barely heard his words. Her mind kept replaying his criticism. Around them, other employees worked at their stations. They all looked like they had stepped out of a fashion magazine's business chic section. Designer handbags hung from chairbacks. Apple watches gleamed on wrists. Even their casual Friday clothes probably cost more than her entire closet. "This is your workstation," Brandon announced, gesturing to a desk near the window. The setup was impressive. Dual monitors, a high-end laptop, an ergonomic chair that adjusted 12 different ways. "You'll be working on Project Phoenix, our new AI system for predicting market trends. We have a demonstration for potential investors in 6 weeks." Jessica sat down, her hands automatically reaching for the keyboard. This was familiar territory. Computers didn't judge her clothes or her background. Code was the one language where she was fluent, where she excelled. Jessica. A friendly voice made her look up. A young woman with kind brown eyes and an expensive-looking cardigan approached. "I'm Rachel Kim, senior developer. Welcome to the team." "Thank you," Jessica said, grateful for the genuine warmth in Rachel's voice. "Don't let the first day overwhelm you," Rachel said quietly. Glancing toward where Brandon had disappeared into his office, "He's intense with everyone at first. Just focus on the work. That's what matters most here." Discovering the problem A's, Jessica logged into the system and began reviewing the Project Phoenix code. Something caught her attention. Years of late-night coding sessions and freelance projects had taught her to spot inefficiencies quickly, and this code was full of them. The algorithms were solid on the surface, but the underlying architecture had serious flaws. Memory leaks, redundant processes, and inefficient data structures that would cause major problems once the system scaled up. How had no one noticed this? She spent the morning diving deeper, making notes, running simulations. By lunch, she had confirmed her suspicions. Project Phoenix, the company's flagship product meant to revolutionize AI market prediction, had fundamental problems that would cause it to crash under real-world conditions. The lunch reality check. The company cafeteria offered gourmet options that cost more than Jessica usually spent on a week of groceries. She grabbed a simple salad and found a quiet corner table. Around her, clusters of employees laughed over sushi and artisan sandwiches. Discussing weekend trips to the Hamptons and ski resorts in Vermont. "Mind if I join you?" Rachel appeared with her lunch tray. "Please," Jessica said, relieved to have company. Rachel sat down and unwrapped her sandwich. "So, how's the first morning going? Besides the Brandon Hayes welcome speech?" Jessica looked at Rachel carefully, trying to gauge if she could trust her. "Can I ask you something honestly?" "Of course. Did Mr. Hayes say something to you about your clothes when you started?" Rachel's expression softened with understanding. "He didn't have to. I showed up in designer everything because my parents insisted on buying me a whole new wardrobe before I started. But Jessica, I've seen the way he treats people who don't fit his mental image of what success looks like. It's wrong, and most of us know it. I spent everything I had on this outfit," Jessica admitted quietly. "I don't have money for designer clothes. I'm here because I'm good at what I do, not because I look the part." "Then prove him wrong," Rachel said firmly. "Show him that talent matters more than labels. Trust me, there are people here who will notice." The discovery that changes everything that afternoon. During a team meeting about Project Phoenix, Jessica made a decision. She had been taught to be quiet, to wait her turn, to not rock the boat. But she also knew that staying silent when she saw a problem wasn't just wrong. It was dangerous. Brandon was presenting the timeline for the investor demonstration when Jessica raised her hand. "Yes." Brandon looked surprised that the new employee was interrupting. "Mr. Hayes? I've been reviewing the Project Phoenix code this morning, and I've identified some critical issues that need to be addressed before the demonstration." The room went silent. Other developers exchanged glances. Brandon's expression hardened. "Critical issues?" His tone was skeptical. "Jessica, you've been here for 4 hours. Our team has been working on this for 8 months. "I understand that, sir." Jessica kept her voice steady, despite her racing heart. But the memory allocation system has fundamental flaws. Under the load we're expecting from real-time market data, the system will crash within 3 hours of operation. I've run simulations. Brandon crossed his arms. That's a serious accusation. It's not an accusation. It's a technical assessment. Jessica pulled up her laptop and connected it to the meeting room display. May I show you? For the next 15 minutes, Jessica walked the room through her findings. She showed the simulations, explained the technical issues in clear terms, and demonstrated exactly what would happen when Project Phoenix faced real-world conditions. The other developers leaned forward, studying her analysis. She could see recognition dawning in their eyes. When she finished, the silence in the room was different. Brandon stared at the screen, his jaw tight. If you're correct, he said slowly, this would have been catastrophic during the investor demonstration. I am correct, sir. I can prove it with additional tests if needed. Brandon looked at her for a long moment. Jessica couldn't read his expression, but she saw something shift in his eyes. Respect? Surprise? Maybe both. Fix it, he said finally. You have 3 weeks. If you can solve this problem, you'll have proven yourself far beyond what I expected from a new hire. As the meeting ended and people filed out, Rachel caught Jessica's eye and gave her a subtle thumbs up. Jessica sat back in her chair, adrenaline still coursing through her veins. She had just bet her entire career on being right. But for the first time since walking into that building, she felt like herself. Not the girl in the wrong clothes, but the brilliant coder who had fought her way here through pure talent and determination. From his office window, Brandon watched Jessica return to her desk with renewed focus. He had misjudged her badly, and that realization unsettled him more than he wanted to admit. 3 weeks of transformation, the office lights of Quantum Solutions glowed against the Manhattan skyline as Jessica rubbed her tired eyes. It was past midnight, and she was alone on the 25th floor except for the cleaning crew. Empty coffee cups surrounded her workstation like a barricade. For the past 3 weeks, she had arrived at 7 in the morning and left after 10 at night. Driven by a combination of determination and fear, Project Phoenix had become her obsession. Every line of code, every algorithm, every data structure had been examined, tested, and often rebuilt from scratch. The memory allocation problems she had identified were just the beginning. As she dug deeper, she found dozens of inefficiencies that would have crippled the system under real-world pressure. Her phone buzzed with a text from her sister. Megan, Mom is worried. You haven't called in 3 days? Are you eating? Jessica smiled sadly and typed back, I'm fine. Tell Mom I'll visit this weekend. Love you both. She looked at the framed photo on her desk, her parents standing proudly outside their Brooklyn apartment. Her father in his factory uniform, her mother in her hospital scrub. They had worked double shifts for years to help pay for her education. This wasn't just about proving herself to Brandon Hayes. This was about honoring their sacrifice. The late-night visitor, you're still here. Brandon's voice made Jessica jump. She spun around to find him standing near her desk, his tie loosened, jacket slung over his shoulder. He looked exhausted, which was surprising. She had assumed billionaire CEOs left at 5 to attend charity galas. Mr. Hayes, I didn't know anyone else was still here. I could say the same thing. He walked closer. Studying her monitors filled with code, do you ever go home? When the work is done? Jessica turned back to her screen, uncertain how to act around him. Since the meeting 3 weeks ago, their interactions had been brief and professional. He hadn't mentioned her clothes again, but she felt his eyes on her sometimes, watching. Evaluating, Brandon pulled up a chair and sat down beside her without asking permission. Show me what you've accomplished. For the next hour, Jessica walked him through the changes. She explained how she had restructured the entire data processing pipeline, implemented more efficient algorithms, and created a self-monitoring system that would flag potential issues before they became critical. Brandon asked sharp, intelligent questions that proved he understood the technical details far better than she had expected. This is remarkable work, he said finally. You've essentially rebuilt the entire system. I've improved it, Jessica corrected. The foundation was solid. It just needed refinement. Brandon studied her in the dim office lighting. Jessica, I owe you an apology. What I said on your first day was completely inappropriate and unfair. Jessica's hands stilled on the keyboard. She had not expected this. I judged you based on superficial things, Brandon continued, his voice uncomfortable with the admission. Your clothes, your background, things that have nothing to do with your abilities. That was wrong, and I'm sorry. Why? Jessica asked quietly. Why did you judge me like that? Brandon was silent for a long moment. Honestly, because it's how I was raised. In my world, appearances matter. Where you went to school matters. Who your family knows matters. I've spent my whole life in that bubble, and I never questioned it until you walked in here and proved that everything I thought I knew about success was backwards. Jessica turned to face him fully. Mr. Hayes, I spent my last paycheck on that outfit. I researched for hours what to wear. When you criticized me, I felt like I would never belong here no matter how hard I worked. Shouldn't have had to feel that way. Brandon ran his hand through his hair. A gesture that made him look younger, more human. The truth is, half the people in this office got their jobs because of family connections or Ivy League networks. You got here on pure talent. That should have been celebrated, not criticized. An unexpected connection. They sat in silence for a moment, the tension between them shifting into something different. Jessica noticed details she had been too intimidated to see before. The tiredness around Brandon's eyes. The coffee stain on his expensive shirt cuff. The way his shoulders sagged with exhaustion. Why are you here so late? She asked. Board meeting preparation. Some investors are questioning whether quantum solutions can compete with the bigger AI firms. This Project Phoenix demonstration needs to be perfect, or we might lose crucial funding. He looked at her screens. Which is why your work might have saved this entire company. Jessica felt a flutter of pride, quickly followed by anxiety. No pressure or anything. Brandon laughed, a genuine sound that transformed his entire face. You've already done the hard part. Now we just need to show the world what you've created. What we've created, Jessica corrected. This is still your company, your vision, maybe. Brandon stood up, grabbing his jacket. But the execution is all you. Go home, Jessica. Get some sleep. We have 2 days until the demonstration, and I need you sharp. As he walked toward the elevator, he paused and turned back. And Jessica. Thank you. Not just for fixing the code, but for teaching me something important. After he left, Jessica sat in the quiet office, her heart beating faster than it should. Something had shifted between them tonight, and she wasn't sure how to feel about it. The family emergency Friday morning arrived with chaos. Jessica was reviewing the final presentation slides when her phone rang. It was Megan, and she was crying. Jess, you need to come home. Dad collapsed at the factory. They're taking him to Brooklyn Methodist Hospital. Jessica's world tilted. What? Is he okay? I don't know. Mom is with him. The ambulance just left. Please come. Jessica grabbed her bag, her hands shaking. She ran to Brandon's office and knocked urgently. He looked up from his computer, immediately sensing something was wrong. My father had a heart attack. I need to go to the hospital. Brandon stood up immediately. Of course, go. Do you need anything? I just need to go. Jessica was already heading for the elevator when Brandon caught up with her. I'll drive you. My car is faster than any cab. Hey, you don't have to do that. It's Brandon, and yes, I do. His tone left no room for argument. Brooklyn Methodist Hospital. The drive to Brooklyn was tense and silent. Brandon navigated the morning traffic with focused intensity, while Jessica stared out the window, her mind racing with fears. When they arrived at the hospital, Brandon parked illegally and followed her inside without asking. They found Jessica's mother and sister in the emergency waiting room. Maria Thompson looked small and fragile in a way Jessica had never seen before. Megan, only 19, had red eyes from crying. Mom. Jessica rushed to embrace them both. They're working on him now, Maria said, her accent thicker when she was emotional. They said it was a serious heart attack. He's been working too hard, too many overtime shifts. Brandon stood awkwardly at the edge of the family huddle, clearly out of his element but unwilling to leave. Jessica suddenly remembered he was there. "Mom, Megan, this is my boss, Brandon Hayes. He drove me here." Maria looked at Brandon with the assessing gaze only mothers possess. "Thank you for bringing my daughter. Of course, Mrs. Thompson. Is there anything I can do? Anything you need?" "Just pray," Maria said simply. The next 4 hours were excruciating. Brandon made coffee runs, spoke quietly with hospital administrators to ensure the family had a private waiting area, and sat patiently while they waited for news. Jessica watched him interact with her family with a gentleness she had never seen before. He asked Megan about her college classes, discussed Maria's nursing work with genuine interest, and never once seemed bothered by the stark difference between their worlds. When the doctor finally emerged, his expression was cautiously optimistic. "Mr. Thompson is stable. We performed an angioplasty and placed 2 stents. He's going to need significant recovery time and lifestyle changes, but he should be okay." Maria burst into tears of relief. Jessica hugged her mother tightly, feeling her own tears flow freely. The revelation later. When Maria and Megan went to see Jessica's father in the ICU, Brandon and Jessica sat in the hospital cafeteria. She was exhausted, emotionally drained, and suddenly very aware that her boss had spent his entire day in a Brooklyn hospital. "You didn't have to stay," she said. "Wanted to." Brandon stirred his terrible hospital coffee. "My father had a heart attack when I was 15. I remember how terrifying it was, waiting to know if he would be okay. No one should go through that alone." Jessica looked at him with new eyes. "I thought you said your father was a real estate mogul who gave you startup money." "That doesn't mean I don't love him or that I wasn't terrified when he almost died." Brandon met her gaze. "Money doesn't protect you from loss, Jessica. It just gives you better hospital rooms." "I never thought about it that way. Most people don't. They see the wealth and assume everything is easy. But my father works 80-hour weeks. I barely saw him growing up. When he had his heart attack, I realized I didn't really know him beyond business discussions." Brandon's voice grew quieter. "Don't let that happen with your father. The work will always be there. Family won't." Jessica felt tears welling up again. "The demonstration is in 2 days. I should be preparing." "The demonstration can wait. Be with your family tonight." Brandon stood up. "I'll send a car for you tomorrow if you want to come to the office. But Jessica, if you need more time, take it. Your father is more important than any investor presentation." As Brandon left, Jessica sat alone with her cold coffee, her perception of him completely transformed. The arrogant CEO who had judged her clothes on the first day had spent an entire day in a hospital waiting room, supporting a family he barely knew. There was more to Brandon Hayes than she had realized, and that discovery made her heart race in a way that had nothing to do with work. The day before the demonstration, Saturday morning, Jessica went to the office despite Brandon's offer of time off. Her father was stable, resting comfortably, and had actually ordered her to go work when she visited him. "I didn't raise a quitter," he had said from his hospital bed. "You go show those rich people what a Thompson can do." The office was quiet on the weekend. Jessica found Brandon already there, reviewing presentation materials in the conference room. "How's your father?" he asked immediately. "Better. Stubborn. He told me to come here and make him proud." Brandon smiled. "Smart man. Come look at this. I've been thinking about how to present your improvements to the investors." They spent the day together, refining the presentation, running through scenarios, preparing for tough questions. As the hours passed, Jessica became increasingly aware of Brandon's presence beside her. The way he listened intently when she explained technical concepts. The way he brought her lunch without asking. The way his eyes lingered on her face when he thought she wasn't looking. "Brandon," she said during a break, using his first name for the first time. "Why are you being so nice to me?" He looked surprised by the directness of the question. "What do you mean?" "The hospital. Today. This whole week. You've gone from criticizing my clothes to treating me like I'm actually important. I'm trying to understand why." Brandon set down his coffee cup and turned to face her fully. "Because you are important. And because I was wrong about you in every possible way. And because He hesitated, then continued, because somewhere between your first day and now, I stopped seeing you as just an employee. Jessica's breath caught. What do you see me as? Someone extraordinary. Someone who challenges me to be better. Someone who makes me question everything I thought I knew about success and worth and what truly matters. Brandon moved closer. Someone I can't stop thinking about. The air between them crackled with tension. Jessica knew she should step back, maintain professional distance. Instead, she stayed exactly where she was. This is complicated, she whispered. I know, you're my boss. I need this job. My family depends on this income now more than ever. I know that too. Brandon's voice was soft, which is why I won't do anything unless you want me to. Your career, your security, those things are sacred. I would never jeopardize them. Jessica looked into his eyes and saw sincerity there. But she also saw something else, genuine affection, respect, and a vulnerability that seemed at odds with his billionaire CEO persona. Ask me again after the demonstration, she said finally. When the power dynamic is less complicated, when I've proven myself completely, Brandon nodded slowly. That's fair. But Jessica, for what it's worth, you've already proven yourself to me 1,000 times over. The morning of Truth Monday morning arrived with crystal clear skies over Manhattan. Jessica stood in front of her mirror in the Brooklyn apartment, staring at her reflection. She wore the same navy blazer and white blouse from her first day, but this time she felt different. Not because her clothes had changed, but because she had. Her phone buzzed with a text from Brandon. Remember, you're brilliant. They're lucky to hear you speak. See you soon. Jessica smiled and tucked the phone into her bag. In the living room, her mother was helping Megan get ready for class. You look beautiful, Mia, Maria said, kissing her daughter's forehead. Your father is watching the live stream from his hospital bed. Make us proud. I will, Mom. I promise. The presentation set up the Quantum Solutions conference room had been transformed into a professional presentation space. 50 chairs faced a large screen with additional standing room for overflow. Investors from California, London, and Tokyo had flown in specifically for this demonstration. Tech journalists filled the back rows. The air hummed with anticipation and expensive cologne. Jessica arrived 90 minutes early to set up her equipment and run final tests. Rachel found her backstage, looking nervous. The sharks are circling out there, Rachel said. I've never seen so many venture capitalists in one room. They're ready to tear apart any weakness they find. Then it's good we don't have any weaknesses, Jessica replied, with more confidence than she felt. Brandon appeared, looking impossibly polished in a charcoal suit. But when he saw Jessica, his expression softened. How are you feeling? Terrified and excited in equal measure. Perfect combination. He handed her a small box. This is for you. Open it later after the presentation. For luck, before Jessica could respond, the event coordinator called for places. It was time. Commanding the room, Brandon took the stage first, welcoming the investors and providing context for Project Phoenix. Jessica watched from the wings as he worked the room with practiced ease, his charisma evident in every gesture. Then he said the words that made her heart race, but I'm not the person you need to hear from today. The true genius behind Project Phoenix is our lead AI developer, Jessica Thompson. She joined Quantum Solutions just 3 weeks ago and has already revolutionized our entire approach. Jessica, please come show them what you've created. Jessica walked onto the stage, acutely aware of 50 pairs of eyes examining her. She saw some investors exchange glances when they noticed her discount store clothes. She saw the subtle surprise on faces that had expected someone different, someone who looked more like Brandon's world. Good, she thought. Let them underestimate me. Good morning, Jessica began, her voice clear and strong. 3 weeks ago, I discovered that Project Phoenix had critical flaws that would have caused catastrophic failure during real-world operation. Today, I'm going to show you not just how I fixed those problems, but how I transformed this AI system into something that will change market prediction forever. For the next 45 minutes, Jessica commanded that room like she had been born to it. She explained complex algorithms in terms anyone could understand. She ran live demonstrations that drew gasps from the technical experts in the audience. She answered challenging questions with confidence and clarity. And most importantly, she showed them results. Project Phoenix processing real-time. Market data faster and more accurately than anything else on the market. When she finished, the room erupted in applause. Not polite golf claps, but genuine, enthusiastic appreciation. Jessica saw investors leaning toward each other, already discussing investment amounts. She saw journalists typing frantically on their laptops. She saw Rachel in the back row, beaming with pride. But mostly she saw Brandon, standing at the side of the stage with an expression of pure admiration and something deeper that made her pulse quicken. The Danthe investor reception afterward was a blur of handshakes and business cards. A venture capitalist from Silicon Valley cornered Jessica immediately. "Ms. Thompson, that was the most impressive demonstration I've seen in 20 years. I want to discuss funding, but I also want to discuss something else." He handed her his card. "We're opening a new AI research center in Palo Alto. I'd like to offer you a position as director. We're talking a 7-figure salary, stock options, unlimited resources." Jessica's brain stuttered. 7 figures. Director level, California. "That's an incredibly generous offer, sir. May I have some time to consider it?" "Of course, but don't wait too long. Talent like yours won't stay available for long." 3 more similar offers came within the next hour, each one more lucrative than the last. Each one representing a dream she hadn't dared to imagine. Each one pulling her away from New York, from her family, from Brandon. The private conversation as the reception wound down. Brandon found Jessica on the outdoor terrace overlooking Central Park. She stood alone, staring at the business cards in her hand. "Congratulations," he said softly. "I heard about the offers. Silicon Valley, London. You're about to become the most sought-after AI developer in the world. It doesn't feel real." Brandon moved to stand beside her at the railing. "You earned this, Jessica. Every bit of it. Did I? Because 3 weeks ago, you told me I wasn't even dressed properly for this world. I was an idiot 3 weeks ago." Oh, Brandon turned to face her. "Actually, I was an idiot my entire life until you showed up and made me see how wrong I was about everything." Jessica looked at him. At this man who had transformed from her harshest critic to her biggest supporter. "The California offer is for director level. Life-changing money. Everything I've worked for, you should take it." Brandon's voice was steady, but Jessica saw pain in his eyes. "It's an incredible opportunity. Is that what you want? For me to leave? What I want is irrelevant. This is your career, your life. I won't be the reason you turn down your dreams." Jessica laughed without humor. "You still don't get it, do you? You brilliant, clueless man. Get what? My dreams changed." Jessica moved closer to him. 3 weeks ago, my dream was just to survive in this industry, to prove I belonged, to make enough money to help my family. But somewhere between debugging code at midnight and sitting in a hospital waiting room and preparing this presentation, my dreams got more complicated." "Oh, yeah." Brandon's breath caught. "Complicated how?" "Complicated because they started including someone I never expected. Someone who drove me to Brooklyn without hesitation. Someone who spent all day in a hospital with people he didn't know. Someone who apologized for being wrong and actually meant it. Someone who makes me want to be brave enough to reach for something beyond just career success." "Jessica." Brandon's. The voice was rough with emotion. "You asked me to wait until after the demonstration to talk about this. Well, the demonstration is over." Jessica took his hand. "I don't want to go to California, Brandon. I don't want London or Tokyo or any of those places. I want to stay here and build something real, not just in the tech world, but in my life. With you. If you still want that." Brandon pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. "I've wanted that since the night you told me talent matters more than appearances. I've wanted it every moment we've worked together. I've wanted it so badly I've been terrified of ruining it." "Then stop being terrified and kiss me already." He did, right there on the terrace overlooking Central Park. With the city sprawling below them and the future spreading out like a promise, when they finally pulled apart, both were breathless and smiling. "What about the job offers?" Brandon asked. "I'll turn them down. But I have conditions for staying at Quantum Solutions." "Name them." "First, you promote me to senior developer with appropriate salary based on merit, not our relationship." "Done. You've earned it 10 times over."
Right.
"You start a mentorship program for kids from underserved communities who want to learn coding. Kids like I was." Brandon smiled. "I love that. What else?" "Third, you take me on a proper date that doesn't involve hospital waiting rooms or investor presentations." "How about dinner tonight? There's this amazing Italian place in Brooklyn near your parents' apartment. We could visit your father first if you want." Jessica's heart swelled. "You'd do that? Go to Brooklyn for dinner?" "Jessica, I'd go anywhere with you. Besides, it's time I learned about your world instead of always expecting you to fit into mine." 6 months later, the tech conference center in Austin buzzed with energy. Jessica stood backstage, adjusting her blouse. Not a discount store purchase this time, but something she had chosen because she liked it. Not because she thought she had to impress anyone. Brandon found her, looking nervous despite his expensive suit. "Ready?" "Almost." "How do I look?" "Like the brilliant woman who changed my entire company and my entire life." "That's not what I asked. You asked the wrong question. It's never been about how you look. It's about who you are, and who you are is extraordinary." They walked onto the stage together. The banner behind them read, "Quantum Solutions and Brooklyn Code Academy present, bridging the opportunity gap in tech." For the next hour, Jessica and Brandon unveiled their new initiative, a fully funded coding program for underprivileged youth. With direct pipelines to jobs at Quantum Solutions and partner companies, they announced scholarships, mentorship programs, and a commitment to judge candidates on talent rather than pedigree. In the front row sat Jessica's parents. Her father, recovered and healthy, wiped tears from his eyes. Maria squeezed his hand, both of them radiating pride. After the presentation, a teenage girl approached Jessica shyly. She wore clothes from a department store, carried a backpack with patches, and had the same nervous hope in her eyes that Jessica remembered from her own past. "Miss Thompson, I'm from the Bronx. I taught myself to code from library books. I applied to your program. Did I get in?" Jessica smiled and handed her an envelope. "Open it." The girl's hands shook as she read the acceptance letter and scholarship offer. Her gasp of joy made several people turn to look. "You're going to do amazing things," Jessica told her. "Don't let anyone tell you that you don't belong somewhere. And definitely don't let anyone tell you that how you look matters more than what you can do." As the girl walked away clutching her letter, Brandon wrapped his arm around Jessica's waist. "That was you 3 years ago." "It was me 6 months ago," Jessica corrected. "Before some arrogant CEO told me to dress properly and then learned one of the most important lessons of his life." "What lesson was that?" "That the best things in life come wrapped in unexpected packages. That talent has nothing to do with designer labels. That love shows up in hospital waiting rooms and late-night coding sessions and moments when someone is brave enough to admit they were completely wrong." "I was wrong about so many things," Brandon admitted. "But I was right about one thing." "What's that?" "You're extraordinary. And I'm the luckiest person in the world that you gave me a second chance." Jessica stood on her toes to kiss him, not caring that conference attendees were watching. Not caring about anything except this moment and this man and this life they were building together 6 months ago. She had walked into a glass tower feeling inadequate and terrified. Today, she stood as a senior developer, a program founder, a role model, and most importantly, as exactly who she was supposed to be, because success wasn't about dressing properly or fitting into someone else's definition of worthy. Success was about staying true to yourself, while being brave enough to reach for everything you deserved, and Jessica Thompson deserved it all.